So your stock is down 17% this past week. Should you panic? Should you sell? What should I do? Should I move my funds to bonds or into cash? Well, if you've got these questions, I want to share 5 things with you that I believe you should consider before making an emotional decision that you may end up regretting. So let's hop on straight into today's video. So before we start, what is the bear market and what is a bull market? A bear market is a market that is retreating or pulling back, similar to that of a bear, right? So what do bears do in winter? They hibernate for a season. A bull market, on the other hand, is a market which is charging forward, similar to that of a bull, because bulls don't retreat, but they push forward. A bear market is a prolonged dip in a market, or even the cost of a stock, where the investment prices decreases by 20% or more over a recent record high. So on the 20th of May, the S&P 500, which tracks the top 500 publicly domestic companies in the United States, dropped into that bear market territory, and lots of people started to panic. But something I want to point out real quickly is that bear markets tend to run for about 9.5 months on average, compared to bull markets, which again on average last for about 2.7 years. So are we out of the woods? We don't know. It's difficult to say. But I want to mention a few facts and a few things that you need to consider. Number one is the war between Russia and the Ukraine. And you might be saying, but that doesn't directly affect me. Yes, it does. Have you gone and tried to put petrol or gas into your car recently? I'd be surprised if you didn't see a dramatic spike in the cost of what you're paying at the pump right now. It's the first time in my life, being since I've lived in Texas, that I've seen prices where it's above $4 a gallon to put gas into my car. Not only that, the Fed in the United States and the Reserve Bank in South Africa are increasing the interest rates in an attempt to cool the economy down due to inflation. So they're trying to slow the economy down in order to take control of inflation. At the moment, inflation in the United States is sitting at 8.3%, and in South Africa it's around 5.9%. Not only that, we look at China with their lockdowns. It's affecting exports into our countries, so the supply of products is being delayed. I know I've looked at computers. When I ordered my computer a few months ago, it took a few months for me to get a new computer. And not only that, you're trying to buy other products that you would normally be able to get within a day or within a week. Now it's taking months. So these are factors that are definitely affecting our economies. So what could you do? The first thing that I would say that you would need to do is to remember why you are investing and make sure that you are sticking to your plan. For me, when it comes to investing, I always think of long term. I'm setting aside funds for a long-term goal or for my retirement, and I'm also weighing up things like what my other goals are, what's my risk tolerance. I decided to invest in a particular portfolio because I looked at what my risk and rewards was. I looked at the time frame that I had set aside before I planned to retire, or as I call it, repurpose, the repurposement of my life. But if you haven't done these sort of things, you're probably going to find yourself in a position where you're starting to panic and I don't know what to do. Should I sell? Should I move my funds around? Just pause, calm down for a brief second and assess your plan and why you chose to invest in the manner in which you did. If you don't have a plan, now is a good time to put a plan in place and maybe consider meeting a financial advisor that can help you with that decision. The second thing that I want you to consider is having a diversified portfolio. And we know the old saying, don't keep all your eggs in one basket, because if you drop that basket, you could risk losing everything. Well, the same thing when it comes to your investing. You need to make sure that you have a well-diversified portfolio. So when there are downturns in one area of the market, hopefully you're going to be shielded in other areas. I know 2022 has kind of thrown that out of the bathtub where normally bonds are safe investments or they are less risky, but even the bond market is down, and we'll touch on why that happened in another video. But something to consider: if you are younger, you generally would have had more of your investments in the form of stocks and maybe less in bonds, or maybe even no bonds, right? And on the other hand, if you were older, you might have rebalanced your portfolio, that you're getting closer to retirement, so you would have had more money in bonds than stock because you didn't want to take a heavy hit if the stock market went down. However, as I said, 2022 was different. The bond markets are down 6 to 10%, and if you find yourself in that position where you have done the prudent thing and you have try to rebalance your portfolio and yet you've been affected by that, what could you do? Number one, I would speak to a financial advisor who could maybe help you in this particular season, redirect where you need to be putting your funds, especially if are a bit older. And by a bit older, I mean you're closer to the age of retirement compared to someone that's just starting out their working career. Something else I'd consider, irrespective of your age, is to consider revisiting your portfolio at least twice a year. I would say 4 times a year, just so that you can consider the market, consider your goals, reassess what your goals are and your risk tolerance. Maybe things have changed in your life, but so you were aggressive when it came to the returns that you wanted, but now you've got a family, so maybe you want to be less aggressive, so you want to spread your portfolio a bit more across different asset allocations. So consider doing that on a quarterly basis or at least twice a year. Another thing I'd consider doing is whether or not we should be investing in dividend paying stocks. So these are stocks where maybe the value or the capital value of the stock has gone slightly down, but you're still going to get some form of dividend, which you can, when in turn, when they pay out the dividend to you, you can reinvest that into the stock market, and you can actually start buying stocks. Even as the market declines, you can take those dividends and start investing, because eventually the market's going to swing the other way. Hey guys, before we continue in this video, comment below, are you investing, are you not investing? And if you're not investing, why not? Now might be a great time to get started. So let's continue with this video. The third thing that I want you to consider is keeping the long term in mind. And this is especially for those of you that are just starting out in your career, or maybe even been working for 10 to 20 years. Know that bull markets are going to come. So now might not be the time to panic and to make emotional decisions where you're just going to cash out, or you're just going to stop contributing to your 401k because you don't want to lose money. Quite often in these times when there are downturns in the economy, if you just steadily continue to invest your money, just continue, eventually it's going to swing, and you might be able to buy stocks today that you wouldn't have been able to afford maybe 2 or 3 years ago because of where the market was. So this might be a good time. I'm not telling you need to do that, but this might be a good time if you just continue to stick to your plan, that you might end up making more money and higher returns in the long run. The fourth thing that I want you to consider is now might be the time to buy, similar to number 3. But if you've got extra resources on hand at the moment, you might be able to, as I've already mentioned, to be able to get stock that you would not have been able to buy 2 years ago. And I thought of naming a few stocks that I would consider buying at this point in time. But again, this is not financial advice. I don't want you to go out and buy the stock that I'm buying just because I said you need to buy it. You need to make informed decisions. Speak to your financial advisor. Look at sectors like the consumer staple sector, healthcare and utilities. So some sectors that tend to do well even in the midst of downturns in the economy. Look at those, but speak to somebody that's a financial advisor that can help and guide you during this time. But I would again say use extra resources. Don't go out and make a loan in order to buy stock now, because you don't know what's going to happen. My philosophy with investing or saving for the future is always I put aside and set aside money that I quote unquote can afford to lose. But hopefully with the right advisors and with a solid financial plan over the long term, I'll actually end up making more, so that I can get to the place of retirement or repurposement in the future and do things that God has placed in my heart. The fifth thing that I want you to consider is to, while you keep investing regularly from a financial perspective, invest in your education as well when it comes to these terms. Yes, you can have a financial advisor. Yes, you can watch the odd YouTube video about this, but there's lots of great resources available that will help you when it comes to determining where you should invest, when you should rebalance your portfolio. Yes, you've got an advisor, but isn't it great to be in a position where if he or she tells you to do something, you understand why? When I look at investing, something that I look at is the solid performance of a company by reviewing their financial statements. I'm not saying you need to have a thorough understanding, but there's some brief terminologies that I believe every one of us should understand as we navigate this journey called life, especially from a financial perspective. So as we wrap up this video, I've got 2 bonus points that I want you to consider. Number 1, if you find yourself and you've watched this video and you're still panicking a bit, just calm down And remember that this didn't catch God by surprise. The key when it comes to investing is, yes, you have a financial advisor. Yes, you do all that you know to do. But ultimately, for me personally, praying about it, making changes that I believe God is telling me to do. Second thing that I encourage you to do is just to make an appointment with your financial advisor. Pick up the phone or email him or her and schedule an appointment, because these are normally people that you trust. I always encourage you to have a financial advisor that's a fiduciary, somebody that's got your best interest in mind. But it's normally, like I said, somebody that you can trust, that will give you peace of mind that yes, the market is doing this. However, there's going to be change, or we can make these slight changes now, which is going to position you in a better of position than what you might have been before there was a downturn. And then the final bonus point is, don't look at your portfolio every day. I made the mistake recently by checking day one. I was like, oh man, I'm down 2%. Day three, I'm down 17%. And as a result of that, it's so easy to find yourself in a position where you're overwhelmed. I'm setting aside money for retirement, but all of a sudden I've lost 20,000 or 30,000. What am I going to do? If you've got a plan in place, if you've assessed your risk tolerance, if you've done all that you need to do, maybe you need to rebalance, maybe you need to reallocate, but don't panic. Yes, we might find ourselves where we might enter into a bear market, but it's going to turn. We're going to enter into a bull market where hopefully you'll have enough time to recover, and even beyond that. Again, if you are closer to retirement, speak to your advisor and see what changes you can make today to ensure that you can get to that place where you are still comfortable when you do retire. So if this video was a blessing to you, I encourage you to share this video with your friends and family. I know that there are lots of people out there that are finding themselves in a position of where they are panicking, but there's no need to panic. I believe that we are finding ourselves in a position where now might be a great time for you to start investing with that extra money, which could in turn fast track you to your retirement.